Hey, welcome back. We're carving with Eric again. It's been a while since I did a video, and it's about time for me to do a video. In fact, I've been wanting to do a video for quite some time and just haven't gotten around to doing it. Here we are. Today we're going to talk about carving cowboys, and I want to do a series of videos on how to carve particularly cowboy busts. I'll be quite honest with you, and I'll full disclosure. This way I'm going to show you now has been done by other carvers. I've modified my own, but one of my good friends, Cleve Taylor, he's the local carver that we have here in the Boise area, written books, carved a lot, taught a lot, and so he is not carving anymore because of health issues. And one of the last times I talked to him, he said, I don't want everything that I've put into carving to disappear. So he's written 6 books, but he asked me if I would be willing to teach some of his classes. And subsequently, since then, I've agreed to do so. But since then, I've done the same thing with Vic Otto. Vic Otto's another retired member of the CCA and a good friend here in Boise that is wanting me or others to teach his classes. So today, I want to start a series on how to teach how to do the cowboy bust. I'm like a lot of you. I started carving in Boy Scouts, and I really enjoyed making neckerchief slides and woggles and walking sticks and bolo ties and things like that. But at some point, that wasn't enough. My wife saw my frustration because some of my early carvings as a Boy Scout leader weren't very good. And I enjoyed doing them. People enjoyed receiving them, but when I look back on them now, I kind of cringe. And that's the way most of us are as we progress in our carving career. We see the earlier stuff that we kept, and it's not the best stuff. In fact, I encourage you to keep that stuff because it shows you a record of your progress. I did some ugly carvings, and I'm not going to bring that one out this time, but here I want to show you the first carving I did with Cleve. Cleve saw some of the things that I was doing and saw some of the frustrations I was having. I was working full time and I was doing scouting, and I couldn't come to the club meetings on the night that they were doing it. So he pulled me aside and said, listen, I'm willing to help you out. So why don't you come over to my house and we'll carve together and I'll show you some things. And I had a lot to learn because I'd only been carving for a couple of years, this type of carving anyway. I'd done a few things, but mostly sharp sticks and neckerchief slides. I wanted to carve better. I wanted to carve like Cleve and Gene and Vic and Norm and Dale and several others in our club. And I had an opportunity to sit down with one of the masters. So here's the first carving I did with Cleve Taylor. I really like this guy. It's probably one of my favorite carvings I've ever done. Let me get my ugly head out of the way. I like it because it showed that I could follow a pattern. Not that I had necessarily a lot of talent, but it showed that I could follow some guidelines of somebody who was helping me along the way. This was in 2010. So you can tell I've not been carving forever, but I've been carving for a few years. So I've carved before that, and I've gotten better since then, and I've carved a lot since then. Anyway, I think that first year I did about 30 or 40 cowboys, and I've just kept doing them. I think here was the second one that I did. Maybe it wasn't. It says 8 on it, so it must have been the 8th one I did. But he looks kind of like Glenn Ford. I took Glenn Ford as an old cowboy hero and took him as an idea for a face, and I really liked the way that come out. And over the course of time, I've turned out a bunch of these things, and I really enjoy cowboys. When I was a kid, I grew up on a farm in Tennessee, and I really enjoyed being around animals. The horses were one that we just didn't have many of. We'd get a cow every once in a while, and we'd raise it, eat it. We had pigs all over the place, but they just don't inspire you very much. But I always wanted a horse, and we eventually, my grandpa in Alabama had a couple, and my grandpa there in Tennessee had one, and it didn't like me. And I swear every time I got on that doggone thing, it bucked me off. And since we didn't have a saddle, we didn't have anything more than rope, I couldn't stay on the thing very well. And so you just kind of, if you wanted to go ride the horse, you rode where he went, or she, and whatever the case may be. Anyway, I read, for a long time, I read Louis L'Amour. And I always couldn't wait to get back to the West. I was born in California. I left when I was a little kid, moved to Tennessee. My dad was from Alabama. He married a gal from Tennessee, and so we moved there and be near her family. And I really enjoyed running the hills and the mountains, but I always wanted to be a cowboy. As I get older and my bones get more brittle, I realize the moment I get on a horse, it's probably a visit to the hospital. Anyway, each one of these cowboys had something a little bit different. And so I wanna walk you through how I do the Cleve Taylor version of cowboys, which in reality, if you look back at history, there's a lot of cowboy carvers. One of the best cowboy carvers was a guy named Claude Bolton. So one of the best cowboy carvers today is Myron Compton and Dave Stetson as well. Dave's been doing it for 40 years. And I look at these guys and I see the cowboys that they're doing, and I just get so jealous. And I think, wow, if I could carve like that, you know, my life would be a whole lot easier for me. But I'm getting better and I'm having a lot of fun. Anyway, I want to show you this one book, Carving Cowboy Faces by Claude Bolton. I have a couple copies of these that I bought at estate sales or yard sales. But one of the things about doing these faces, and I'll show you, if you can see that face right up there, that's a really good cowboy face. But Claude Bolton, I think he was a math teacher, he had it down to a science. And so when you go through his books, he shows you every tool, every cut, everything that he's doing. But one of the biggest things that's helpful for those of us that started out this way is how to cut out that head. Right here, on this page right here, shows you exactly which cuts and in what sequence. So Claude Bolton says you make this cut first, and then that cut second, and that cut third, and that cut fourth. And that kept you from doing more wear and tear on your bandsaw. And so if you're doing a bandsaw and you're trying to cut it out, what you want to do is, at the end of a long cut, you want that to be a part you don't have to back out. And so you make sure that your cuts are done in such a way that your shortcuts are done first, and then the long cut to cut to that shortcut is done that way, is done so that you can remove that wood and you don't have to back the bandsaw blade out. This is one of his books. He's got a couple, 2 or 3. And it also shows the pattern for the base, which you can embellish and you can change and you can do whatever you want to with it. But it gives you a lot of opportunities through here to do that head. And then he also shows you in this book how to change it. And then he also shows how he's done several of these. So there's several of them here as go-bys, as examples that you can look at to see. When I look at a book like Cleve Taylor, and here's his Cowboy Carving with Cleve Taylor book. I don't know which book this was, which number this was, because he did 6 books, and I don't know what order they were. I probably could if I opened up the copyright page and found out. But anyway, Cleve took his own head, made it a little bit different. And so when you go through, there's a lot of similarities for somebody who's carving a cowboy. There's not a whole lot different. And in fact, one of the things that I really enjoyed Cleve teaching me was about bojangles. Bojangle is this thing right here by my finger. And it's a series of pieces of wood or cardboard that you can pin together with clips, and that will allow you to do different poses for cowboys. But anyway, the steps are roughly the same. You're going to start carving a cowboy, and there's not a whole lot different in any of these things. So I'm, again, interest in full disclosure. I don't want anybody to say that Eric is stealing stuff. Cleve asked me if I would continue teaching his stuff. I've done that locally, and I've mentioned that at other places where I go teach. And other people have said, yeah, we'd love that, and that would be a great honor to Cleve and to Vic that you pass on his stuff. I've got some of Vic's, Vic didn't write any books, but I got some of Vic's roughouts and blanks that he gave me, and I've got some of Cleve's. I've got some of their completed carvings, and so I'm not trying to steal anything from anybody. I just want to honor them by passing that on and showing those carvings. So we're gonna get into it, and I'll show you a few of those as we go along. Here's the one we're going to look at today. Here's one we're going to try to. I like the smile on this guy. He just looks like he's having a good time. You know, he's a fella you'd like to have a beer with, and he's a good carving. It's simple. The base is separate from the head, and then we'll carve the head and base separately. So here's what we're going to do. I took a pattern that Claude gave me years and years and years ago, and I think this is real similar to others that people have done. I've got an example. Give me just a minute. This one was done by one of our local carvers who since unfortunately passed away. Miles Lund was a really, really good carver, and he carved in a lot of genres. Anyway, this is one of his cowboys, and this is directly from the Claude Bolton series, because the head, I don't know, see how skinny that neck is. The hole for the hole in the shirt and the neck were carved really, really small, and that's a style that some people enjoy, and that's a style that I've carved as well. I like the neck a little bit thicker, and so we're going to take this guy, and we're going to take this piece, which is what we're going to cut the bottom. This is going to be the base. So the base is going to look like this. Hang on. So this is the base. This is out of 2-inch wood. So I cut that out of a piece of 2-inch wood, which I laid here somewhere and now can't find. Anyway, this is 2-inch thick wood, and it is, it's about that long from front to back. I don't know exactly how that is. It's a 2-inch wide wood. Anyway, that's going to be the base. I then cut the hole for the head with a Tenon Cutter. Sorry, not a Tenon Cutter, a hole cutter. So that's these little tools like this. I got them from Woodcraft. They're, I don't know, $20, $30 for a set of 10 of them. And this one is the 3/4. So what I did is I took this and I bent it just a little bit back. In other words, it's got on a slight angle. Because what you don't want is the neck of this thing coming straight up here. Because most of us don't have a straight neck. If you turn and look at your neighbor to the left or the right, their neck comes off at an angle from their shoulders. It goes up. It doesn't go straight up. And so we wanted to have this at an angle. So when I put this bit, get it in there. When I put that in there, you can see the angle of that neck. That's the angle that the head's going to come off of. So it's going to be a little bit of an angle because we don't want it to be straight up. You don't want the thing to look real stiff where it's, you know, real straight neck, straight up from the shoulders. You want to have a natural bend to it. Then out of 3-inch wood, we cut the head. And the head is off of this pattern here. Slightly different from Claude's and slightly different from Claude's, but here it is out of real thin, almost tissue paper. And when I put that head in there, you'll see a little bit of a slight angle to the head. So it's not coming straight up. It's got a little bit of a, well, it doesn't want to go down in the hole now. It's got a little bit of an angle to the head. It's where he looks like he's naturally leaning forward. And so that's what we're going to do with this piece. This one, I took the blank when I cut it out, cut out the side profile, and you lay it just like this. This back of the hat, back of the crown, and the back of the brim make a natural flat piece there. And so what I did is I laid that flat, just like that, on the table, and I cut this neck part. And so I went over until the neck was 3/4 of an inch wide. This is what I ended up with on the bandsaw. Then I clamped it into my drill press, and I use another tool. And doggone it, I seem to be losing my tools everywhere, in addition to losing my marbles because it's sitting there looking me in the face. Anyway, here's that tool. It's a Tenon Cutter. So it allows you to cut right down into that head and trim that 3/4 inch piece. As this piece spins, it trims off that edge of it like this. And so when you get all the way down to the base of that, all the way to the bottom of that, what you are left with are these 2 pieces, these 4 pieces here. And those are easily cut off. And so that's what we're going to start with. I'll show you how to shape this head. I'll show you how to draw on it. That'll be the next video. And hopefully by the 3rd one, we'll start cutting the head. And by the 4th one, we'll start cutting the body. And by the 5th one, or if there's going to be 5, maybe I don't know, this will be longer. This one's about 15 minutes. And so we're going to carve this so that hopefully at the end, we end up with this little fella, and hopefully you can get a good smile out of him. I've been successful lately with getting different expressions out of my cowboys. I did one that I took to the state fair and won best of hobbycraft, because all the carvings are put in hobbycraft instead of art. Won best of hobbycraft. I got a nice little plaque that I toss in the corner because I don't usually hang many of those up. And then I took it down to the Utah Valley Wood Carving Show down in September down in Springville, Utah, and it won best of its category down there too. So I'm really proud of that smiling cowboy. He's over in the next room where I'd run and get him. But anyway, I challenge you not to carve exactly like I do. And that was one of the things that I wanted to do when I first started carving. I didn't want to just recreate somebody else's stuff. I wanted to do my own. And I'm doing this one as a copy because I want to pass on that knowledge that Cleve gave to me, and that has been bolstered by even carvers like Ryan Olson. I did one of his small guys and enjoyed doing that. But I've learned a lot, and so I'm sure I won't copy exactly because I've learned different things from different people. And so, but I want to honor Cleve because he's a good friend of mine. I really appreciate all that he's done for me. We get together several times. I haven't been with him since COVID simply because with his health and his family, he doesn't want to be exposed to a lot of people. And I work in a high school. It seems like I work in a petri dish sometimes. So I'm always around people who are sick, sniffling, coughing, wheezing, whatever. And I try to wear a mask as often as possible, but I've got both my shots and the COVID shots and the booster shot, and I think I'm fairly protected, but I may still be carrying it, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time around people who are a little bit nervous. Anyway, over the course of this video series, I'll talk a little bit more about how we do the things that we do. You'll get an opportunity to make it better, make it your way, and have fun doing it your way. So hope you stay tuned, and we'll have a good time doing this thing, because I really enjoy doing cowboys, and I hope you do too. See you in the next video.